The time was 1949. The greatest generation returned from war. They were eager to begin new lives, no longer directed and shaped by the rigors of wartime. It was time for a new, more peaceful life. Thousands who had experienced the climate of Southern California while working, training, or in transit during wartime would now elect to make this their home. 25 miles south of Los Angeles and immediately adjacent to Long Beach, approximately 3,500 acres of mostly bean fields, known only for cattle grazing and crop farming, caught the attention of three enterprising developers. This is the story of that land and the people who pioneered the future city of Lakewood on that land. The three developers, Ben Weingart, Louis Boyer, and S. Mark Taper, purchased this land. Moved by a combination of hard-headed business sense, tinged with a degree of idealism intended to satisfy the hunger for a home and the comforts of family life felt by tens of thousands of new residents, they formed the Lakewood Park Corporation in partnership with Prudential Insurance Company. Orphaned at age 4 and adopted by a sharecropper family in Georgia, Ben Weingart set out westward on his own at 15. He was almost 18 when he arrived in Los Angeles in 1906, landing a job with the Diamond Laundry Company, delivering laundry to downtown hotels. He eventually got into the hotel business, managing and later owning more than 200 hotels and apartment buildings. Ben Weingart's primary role in the Lakewood Park Corporation was to obtain financing for the entire development project. His long association with and affection for the city can be seen today in the many public facilities made possible by the Weingart Foundation, the Center at Sycamore Plaza, the William Burns Community Service Center, the Weingart Lakewood Family YMCA, and the Weingart Senior Center. Louis Boyer was a man with a vision. The owner of Aetna Construction Incorporated, which built homes for defense workers during World War II, he worked on his plan for nearly 10 years, envisioning rows of houses with corner strip malls within walking distance, schools, parks, and places for religious worship. It would become the nation's largest post-war planned community. Boyer joined up with Ben Weingart and was named president of the Development Corporation. He was in charge of overseeing all of the construction. S. Mark Taper was brought into the project and named vice president of the corporation. His reputation for the successful construction of large tracts of housing in the Los Angeles area helped to secure the initial financing from Prudential. His company, Biltmore Construction, along with Boyer's, brought together the pooling of labor and equipment needed for the massive project. The new company soon began construction of over 17,000 new homes for a new class of homeowners, GI Bill-educated World War II veterans. The demand for housing required a frantic pace of construction, with an astounding goal of at least 50 housing starts each day. Wartime mass production techniques were put to use. An assembly line of workers put together door and window frames to be delivered daily to the construction site, along with other components. Because of production efficiencies, for every 10 foundations poured, enough concrete was saved to build the 11th. Teams of carpenters hammered together the wood frames. Fresh plaster was laid on the walls by one crew, to be smoothed out a few minutes later by another crew. Special conveyor equipment brought shingles to the roofers. Thousands of houses arose from the ground in accordance with a master plan for a dream city designed by Louis Boyer. Boyer's dream city was built around Ben Weingart's vision of California's first mega mall. In fact, the world's largest shopping center at that time, and the first large shopping area specifically designed for the automobile. Landscape parkway panels separated residential streets from major highways. Community parks were planned throughout the tract.
You know, it was really like seeing a fairy tale take shape in front of your eyes. You just couldn't believe that it went up that fast. You know, and then all of a sudden the grass grew and the trees were planted, and here you were. It was an interesting time.
There were really long lines. You could stand in line for an hour or two to get up to talk to somebody about buying a house. And it was continuous almost. Anytime you'd go over to look, there was a long line for people who wanted to look at the houses.
The people were just beginning to move in when school started, the Lakewood Park. So, of course, the only children that were going to MacArthur was from our one little track, which was between Bellflower and Woodruff and Carson and Harvey Way. And when he first went, the first day, Ron came home and he said, well, there was only 5 kids in our class today. He'd come home the next day, well, we got 3 new kids, or 5 or 7 each day. And before the end of the year, they were on double session.
They were like flocks of birds. We all had, you know, quite a few children. And when we finally got our swing set up, it was one of the few swing sets on the street. Why, they'd sort of swoop in, you know, and you'd hear all this noise in the backyard, and then all of a sudden you look out, it was quiet, and the swings were going like this, but they were gone. They'd gone someplace else.
On any given weekend or summer day or after school hour, there would be groups of bunches of 4 or 5 or 6 boys, generally about the same age, who would hang out together in front yards, living rooms, backyards, parks, and particularly in the summertime, it was a movable feast. You would go from your living room to the house across the street, to their den, to their backyard, to another house, and it was as if every mother in your neighborhood was your mother, every living room in the neighborhood was your living room, every backyard in the neighborhood was your backyard.
In 1953, from Bellflower Boulevard east was just an ocean of these framed houses going up. It was just one after the other. It was just amazing.
Everything about the new community was larger, bolder, and newer than anyone had seen before. Labeled by Time magazine as the largest housing development in the world, they reported as many as 30,000 people stampeded one day for the sale of houses in Lakewood Park. Thanks in large part to the availability of federal low-interest, no-down payment loans offered veterans, the newly built unincorporated area of Southern California had, by early 1953, become a thriving residential community of more than 80,000 residents.